Hello, and welcome to the Amplify Your Confidence podcast. My name is Me, written as MY, at www.dancewithme.com. This is a weekly podcast where I create fun, energetic, and informative conversation that helps you to amplify your confidence and live your life to the fullest. Are you ready for it? Let's go! Hello everyone. Welcome back to the Amplify Your Confidence podcast. I cannot believe it, already episode 8, and today we have a beautiful, amazing guest speaker with us, Sian McKeever, and we're gonna discuss a topic from surviving to thriving with her. Welcome, Sian. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you for having me. So excited.
And before we jump into our conversation today, let me introduce you with our guest speaker. So it's gonna be a little bit of story different compared to what I normally do in the intro with our guest speaker. I'm gonna just share a little bit of story here. So I got to know Shan through a very good friend, Luca, our guest speaker in episode 2, actually, how to overcome your fear. If you haven't listened yet to that episode, please, I really highly recommend to do so. So my first impression with San were she is such a gorgeous lady with a lot of wisdom to share to the world. Definitely very brave person as well to be super vulnerable on social media. She actually an influencer with more than 70,000 followers on her social media, on her Instagram channel. What she shares on there, we're gonna discuss later in our topic with Shan. However, only I listened to her podcast, especially the one she recorded while she was in Vietnam a few weeks ago. I have felt much more connected with her. The extreme emotion and her learning to be in a neutral space in life she mentioned in that episode has really resonated with me. So I decided to slide into her DM and asked if she would like to join the Amplify Your Confidence podcast because I know her story is powerful, motivating, and inspiring to many of my audience. In the last few years, Shan gone from being a broke university student to a struggling freelance designer into a growing entrepreneur and now a full-time content creator and a coach. She made her personal brand one of her mainstream income and now she get paid to be who she is and lives wherever she wants. As a creator, coach, and mirror, she has helped hundreds of people around the world activate their true calling, express their creativity, release their fears, and gain new confidence to be their self, online and offline. Shan, I cannot wait to share more about your amazing journey with our listener. Thank you very much again for joining me today. And welcome to the Amplify Your Confidence podcast.
Thank you. Cảm ơn.
Yeah, did you learn some Vietnamese while you are
That's
in
it.
Vietnam?
That's you heard it all.
And have you eaten quite a lot of Vietnamese food as well?
As much as I can as a vegan, but I love it. I'll basically any Southeast Asian food, I'm there. It's like my comfort zone for food. I get so tired of Western food so quickly, so it's so nice to be back in the land of like fresh food, you know?
Yeah, and a lot of vegetables as well.
So good. The best.
Yeah, and I think because there are more and more also like expat coming to Ho Chi Minh as well to live, I think we have more like vegetarian food and vegan food as well. I think it's super easy to transfer Vietnamese food into a
Yeah,
vegetarian or vegan dish.
to be honest, a lot of Southeast Asian food is naturally very vegetarian friendly. They're
Mm-hmm.
just not aware of it. Like you wouldn't
Yeah,
label it vegan. Um,
yeah,
because
definitely.
I grew up in Hong Kong, and there's a lot of Chinese food that is naturally vegan because there's a lot of Buddhist food. So,
Mm-hmm.
it's super easy. It's just about reading the ingredients list. I'd like just can memorize like what is egg in Vietnamese. Milk.
Yeah, yeah. All right. So before we jump into our topic today, I have a small game with our guest speaker. Always in the first 5 minutes, I'm gonna put you on a hot seat with 5 questions, and then whatever comes into your mind, you're gonna just answer it. So our audience gonna know more about you. Are you ready?
Let's go.
So the first one is, what confidence mean to you in 3 words or just one sentence?
Hmm. Confidence to me is being unapologetically yourself.
Mm, beautiful. Number two, what was one of your favorite memories from your childhood?
It's so random, but going to Disneyland with my family, um, because my dad would work so much that when we would actually have quality time with him, we would go to Disneyland in Hong Kong, or when we went to one in Tokyo or America, and that was when he got to be his inner child got to come out, and we had such a fun time as a family, just like laughing. And I think those are like the best, most the most like carefree memories I have as a kid.
Mm, that's nice. Yeah. Um, the third question is, what is the best piece of advice you ever received?
Hmm. Um, okay. Everything is always working out for me,
Mm,
as a saying,
yeah.
uh, as a perspective. Yeah, that's changed the way I live my life.
Okay. Who did give you this piece
So
of advice?
the person who actually coined it was Abraham Hicks.
Mm-hmm.
However, where I heard it was from my sister, Maya.
Mm, okay. Nice. Um, so number four is, how do you describe yourself in
Mhm.
3 words? And how do others people describe you in 3 words?
Oh God.
Yeah. Ah!
Who knows?
Yeah.
Okay. I suppose for me, the first word that pops into my mind is animated.
Mm,
I get that a lot, that I'm very animated in the way I speak. I would say genuine and emotional are the
mm-hmm,
three things that I would use to describe myself.
mm-hmm,
People's perspective of me perhaps is um hard. Vulnerable, I
mm-hmm.
guess. Vulnerable is a big one. I know you used that word earlier. Um, ooh, multifaceted, perhaps,
Mm.
and maybe a little chaotic.
I don't see it from your social media though. I thought you're super
No, okay.
organized.
The people that know me in person, I think they're probably like, yo,
Yeah.
but
Oh.
yeah. Okay, maybe if
Mm.
not chaotic, then I do hear people say classy, which is a nice one.
Mm.
People
Yeah.
tend to use that word to describe me, but I'm also like, I'm sitting on the floor on a pillow. So I don't really know
Yeah.
if that's classy, but anyways.
Yeah. I I do see the classy in you. I would say that word as
Very
well. Okay, so we come to the last question. Oh, very fast.
fun.
Because you are digital nomad, I know you also born and raised until I don't read 7 years old or 10 years old in Hong Kong, right? And
So it's
mhm.
16 years in Hong Kong.
Oh, 16 years. And then you
Yeah,
moved to England, but your father is not English, he
no,
Irish.
he's
Yeah.
Irish.
Yeah, so. Yeah, I assume you already been to so many places in the world. And my
Yes.
questions is, name quickly your five favorite places.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Okay, number one, Botswana. Um,
Mm-hmm.
in Africa. That was the coolest place I've ever
Mm-hmm.
been. I got to go to the Kalahari Desert and the Okavango Delta, and it was truly the most life-changing experience ever. I would go back there in a heartbeat. I'd say the next one would be Hong Kong, as that's my home, and
Mm-hmm.
it will always have a special place in my heart. Third, Cappadocia in Turkey. I thought that was really cool. I went when I was 14, 15, so I don't really fully remember it, but I just remember being there and thinking this is such a unique place. I love it. Four would be Puerto Escondido in Mexico, surf town, something really magical there.
Mm-hmm.
And then five, New York, because it's New York. The end. I have nothing to add to that.
Wow, so cool. Yeah, I think one of the reason I choose these questions because every place you need to explain why it's so special to you, and from there, audience gonna learn a little bit more about you through the places. Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for these first five questions and open up with us. So now we can go to our next part. Let's discuss um, from surviving to thriving. Yeah, I think when I was looking at your website and also all of the content on your social media and what do you do, what have you achieved so far, to think of the topic like what we're going to discuss today with her. And I thought, okay, let's just pick that amazing quote in on your website when you put like from surviving to thriving to discuss with the audience, because I guess everyone have been through that stage in their life where they live but they don't feel alive, and how you actually can pick yourself up, how you can make a decision, and how you can make a baby step toward to lift yourself from one side to the other side and then shining again. That is super important skill that everyone should have in their life. So let's talk about this today. So before we jump into a few questions, I would love you to share a little bit more about your story with the audience. So
Yeah.
from the place of your biggest breakdown to your biggest breakthrough.
Mm.
Uh, yeah. So let's start with that. Let's start with Shan a few years ago when you super lost with a lot of anxiety. Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm 25 years old,
Mm-hmm.
pretty young in the grand scheme of things. Sometimes people think, how can you possibly coach people when you've only had 25 years worth of experience?
Mm-hmm.
But I would say that I've had the gift of self-awareness and a resilience that I suppose was taught to me by my mom and my sister. And I've had a really great support system around me forever. And so I think I have this innate sense of this innate belief that things are always going to figure itself out and I'm always going to be okay. So even at my lowest moment, when I was 18, 19 years old, I always knew that somehow I would get out on the other side. And I didn't know how and I didn't know why, but I was riddled with severe cystic acne and I had just admitted to myself that I had an eating disorder. And I was also healing off of coming off the birth control pill after
Mm-hmm.
5, 6 years of being on it. And what that did to my physical body, let alone my mental health, was nothing like I'd experienced before. And no one around me was going through it. And at the time, I had just moved to London on my own to start university. And that in itself was a
Wow.
very stressful time for anybody, going to a new environment and trying to make it out in the world alone. And especially in London where, it costs you like $500 to breathe. So
Yeah.
so stressed and trying to make my uni life fun, and but I just couldn't, honestly. And I've never been formally diagnosed with anything. I never formally was depressed or anxious or anything like that, but I knew what it was like to be depressed and to be anxious and to lose who I was. And this person that you see now was nowhere near this, like physically, mentally, emotionally, energetically. Like you could feel that I did not like who I was, and I did not want to be there. And that was the I guess the epiphany, the starting point for me that actually taught me how to use my mind to I suppose in a way what you're doing is tricking yourself into believing that things are going to get better, and the physical body then follows. So that was the lowest point. And that was also the start of the rest of my life. And I feel like without that experience, I would not be who I am, in the sense that I would not be humble. I would
Yeah.
have taken a lot for granted. I would not be kind. I really don't think. I don't think I would be as grateful, and I don't think I would have an appreciation for life and for people, and more importantly for myself, had I not gone through that.
Yeah. And I think what you went through, there are a lot of people also went through it, but I just think that the society has taught us to not speak up, like the
Mm,
problem of your skin, or the problems as in such a young age, you live far away from home, you try to make it from yourself. And it feels like everyone nowadays, especially in Gen Z, people go abroad to
yeah,
study a lot, like every single of them, because the economy also getting better. But it doesn't mean it getting easier for everyone. It's
that's
not,
a really good point. Yeah, that's
yeah,
never thought of
yeah.
it that way, actually.
And and also I think with your acne problem, I also like when I saw it, I almost like it make me so emotional as well because when I in my teenager, even until in my university until I'm 22, 23, I also have that problems as well. And I
Really?
feel so ashamed, like even though outside I'm trying to be okay with that, but how could you be okay if everyone around you just talk about you? Like
Yeah,
that and I think it's the nice things about what you share on Instagram because it's not for us, it's for us to educate others who don't have this problem as well, how they can use words and how they being aware of their behaviors toward us can actually damage our
absolutely.
ourselves. Yeah.
Absolutely. I feel like I think as well, being Asian and having grown up in an Asian environment, there's an even more intense pressure to be perfect in your physical form, as well as your education, as well as, in your love life and everything. You need to be absolutely perfect. And so I think I wasn't the smartest kid in the room. I was very good at what I was good at and interested in, but the math and science, I was like, what the hell? Like, I can't do this by. Um, so I think as a kid, I thought, okay, if I'm not going to be loved for my academic work, I can be loved for the way I look, and people will accept me because I'm pretty, and I will have something to give the world. And I'm not saying that's healthy, but that was fed into me as this idea that, okay, if you're a woman and you don't have something valuable to give, then your looks are what you've got. And so I put so much pressure on myself to be beautiful and to be to be noticed. And that's what led to the eating disorder, but all amongst many other things. But on top of that, that's why when the acne started coming out of my body and purging in the way that it did, I had acne since I was 11 years old, but when I came off the pill, that's when it went really, really, really bad. That felt like the end of my life. And when you zoom out, it's not that big of a deal, but because of the pressure that I felt to maintain an idea of me that was no longer there anymore, I felt like a failure to not only myself, but to everyone around me. And I felt this kind of, as you said, the word shame and embarrassment and
Yeah.
I didn't want people to be seen with me because I thought they would feel ashamed for being around me or knowing someone as quote unquote ugly as me. And that's
Yeah.
all so sad and not
Yeah.
true.
Yeah, definitely. So that happened how long ago?
So I was 18 and I
Mm-hmm.
came out of it about when I was 19, 20. So I'm 25 now. So it's honestly
Yeah.
not that long ago. Yeah.
No. And I believe it's still a journey until now because sometimes that would trigger back on you, like because something that it I think it never easy to be healed
No,
totally 100%. It
very
like someday you feel like, oh, I'm healed that part of myself when I'm younger, but one day it trigger back because something happened with you, and also the skin is super sensitive.
true.
It Yeah, something can go back, and then you scared, and maybe from that moment you act out of fear again of that. So that's
Yeah.
why I love to see what you put on social media to share about this, because I just feel like, wow, she is not yeah, again, ashamed. She's super vulnerable and saying the truth of her journey, because not every day she gonna be shy and bright.
No, definitely not. No, no. I mean, right now I have good lighting on. I've got some makeup on. Like my skin looks very, very good. And it's gotten much better. But I had a horrible breakout even like a week and a half ago, and that really knocked my confidence and made me feel like that girl again, that 18-year-old girl. And it's a habit that you break, and it's like a smoking addiction. Not that I've ever smoked, but like you can pick it back up again, and then you feel like no time has passed.
Hmm.
And I think that's something, that really took me by surprise. I was like, oh my gosh, like this is the worst breakout I've had in years. And now I'm having to sit with that and go through the same things again, like talking myself out of that spiral, and reminding myself that if I've gone through it once, I can go through it again. And I think that's something that I didn't expect to be dealing with, and it's not easy. And
Hmm.
yeah, I don't know. I don't ever want to lie about that as well. Like I don't ever want people to think, oh my gosh, like she's figured it out now, that her problems will never come back. But it's very cyclical. And I think as women as well, um, we forget that our whole lives is a cycle. And so sometimes things will come back around, and you just have to deal with it in a different way. And no cycle is ever the same.
Hmm.
So
Yeah. Um, so I want to turn it back a little bit, because you have this issue, and then but you also working in a beauty industry for some time as well, right? Yeah.
well, I I didn't necessarily work in the industry. I was very aware of it. I
Mm,
think because I mean, Hong Kong is very like heavy on the
mm,
beauty
mm,
standards, as is everywhere in the world. But I never felt the same pressure being in the UK as I did in Hong Kong for some reason.
mm,
Um, my sister's a ballerina, so I had a direct contrast of what a skinny, beautiful woman would look like versus me
mm,
at the time, and that was a huge no fault of her own, but that was something that I then internalized and had issues with being compared. But I worked in the illustration and design industry. That was what I trained as a designer. And those things are complete, like your looks are completely irrelevant. Like it doesn't matter what
yeah.
you can be a great designer. But I actually was a fitness influencer between the ages of 16 to 18. And
Mm,
that was when I got my first taste of what it was like to be social media savvy, and I started getting brand deals very young in Hong Kong. And
mm,
the problem with that is, I mean, so many things, but I was so young, so impressionable. And again, everything was down to the way I looked. And it was all about having washboard abs and a cute butt, and like, having all the right workout gear. And it was all about the look. And I fell victim to that for many years. So breaking
mm.
out of that was very difficult when I had to start healing the eating disorder that was developed as a result of that lifestyle, to then put on weight on purpose, and retrain my mind to see beauty as anything outside of my physical body. Yeah.
Yeah. So, so in that sense, I hear that confidence actually doesn't really come on having a perfect look, like
Um,
how you thought you're supposed to be, right? Because it sounds like at that time your confidence was might be at the lowest.
Yeah, 100%. All I did was care about like what I was eating and how many times I could work out in a day. And I was constantly thinking about my looks. Whereas now, maybe, okay, maybe not this past week and a half, I've been conscious of my skin. But aside from that, now I know that I'm beautiful as I am without needing to think that hard about it. And I'm not here to prove it either. And I think there's this like that sense of back then anyways, there's a sense of like, oh my gosh, I need everyone to know that I'm beautiful because I can't convince myself, so let me try and convince everybody else, and maybe that would make me feel better. It didn't. Oh, what? Crazy.
Wow. I know you already shortened so much your story,
Yeah.
but from the age of 18 until now, you have like 16 even, you've gone through a lot. So it, of course, I don't believe in like you need to be 30, 35, or 40, 45 to become a coach. It's about how life experience uh, have made you the person who you are today, and actually how much work you put on yourself, because it's, I believe it a tons of work that you have done for yourself in order to get out of that place. So let's talk a little bit like how did you find the clarities in that moment of loss and so broken, in order to become Shan today?
So I hit a rock bottom moment, which I think everybody does in
Mm,
whatever context of, of your struggle. I hit rock bottom when my parents said to me, I think it was like New Year's Eve or something. They were like,
mm,
we don't recognize you anymore physically, but also like mentally, like you're just not our daughter, you're not Sean. And they said if I didn't get better, they would want to put me back on the birth control pill because at least they knew that that would help my skin. And I saw that as like, I saw it as a threat at the moment at that time because I was like, absolutely fucking not. Like, there's a reason why I came off that. It's because I didn't want to be on it. I personally just knew that my body wasn't going to be healthy long term on the pill, and I needed to heal naturally, and I needed to regulate my hormones in my body naturally. And so, that's the main reason why I came off it. But everyone around me couldn't understand why I was insisting on going through this natural path when my skin was just getting worse and worse, my mental health was getting worse, my physical health was getting worse. They were like looking at me, it looked like I was just destroying myself, but I knew that I had to go through it. Like, you have to just, instead of finding more shortcuts and quick fixes, I was like, I have to just hold on and eventually I'll get onto the other side. But when my parents did that, and I know it came from a place of love, I said to them, okay, I promise in a month, give me 1 month. And this sounds like something out of a movie, so cheesy, but I don't know why. For some reason, I was like, give me 1 month. And if I'm not better and I don't see any results, I'll let you put me back on the pill. And that was the agreement we had. And something obviously just clicked in my mind, that decision, that determination to actually make it happen. um, I started to find faith, and I started to believe in what I was doing. And whether or not that was a placebo effect, or actually I was just coming across things that started to help myself, it doesn't matter. Whatever it was some sort of divine intervention, and I started to actually see results. And I suddenly would read the right thing, or I would start, practicing gratitude. I would start writing in my journal. I could only write 3 things at the time because I was so depressed that I was like, 3 things that I'm grateful for is it's a huge stretch. Like, I can't even think of one. But I was like, all right, I'm gonna write 3. And I started doing that, and I started to just believe that what I was doing was actually going to produce something. And so that and then on top of that, I had an awakening, and I connected to God for the first time on my own. I didn't realize it was God at the time. My spiritual journey has been very murky up until then. And I didn't even realize it was God until only a few years ago. But I look back now, and I would speak to God, and I would pray, and I would ask for help, and I would also put it out there, through my words, and affirm to myself that things were going to get better for me. And I think, yeah, so I guess I was a living manifestation of my thoughts, and that was the first time I actually put that connection together. Before I knew what affirmations were and what
Mhm.
manifestation was and all that jazz, it was just like something that I just realized. So yeah,
Mhm.
I don't remember what the
Wow.
question is
It
now.
no, it's super powerful. Um, I think yesterday evening I was watching one of your very, very old video where you shared about that, like when you share the how you healed your acne by
Mm,
training your brain. It like
yeah,
in the time that we even didn't have reels or anything yet. It
yeah, yeah.
like the Instagram IGTV or something.
IGTV, yeah.
And I was like, wow, but I don't know if you know about Vincent, the guy who actually the founder of My Valley. It's like a
Oh,
platform. So
mhm.
he also have a very like a viral video on YouTube on how he heal his skin just by using the brain and what he talk to himself. So when I saw your videos and I'm like, boom! So there are now two examples of
Yeah,
how powerful our brains and our thought actually can do to our body and actually to everything. Because that video actually went viral and some of the Miss Universe they learn it to heal their skin before the competition as well. That's
wow,
why he got so famous on these. And last night when I saw that videos of you, I'm like, wow, she did the right thing.
yeah, wow,
Um,
yeah. Mhm.
was that the reason why you become a coach?
Um, no.
Mm,
The Truthfully, the reason I became a coach was because I knew that people wanted to learn from me.
mm,
Whatever it was that they wanted to learn from, whatever it is that they saw in me, they were willing to invest in me. And I was like, okay, I am not going to throw this opportunity away. I do want to help. It's something that I think it's important. But I find that the way I feel the best helping is through my content, my
mm,
storytelling.
mm.
Um, that's where I feel the most fulfilled. Coaching to me is fun. It's great. I do enjoy it. I'm grateful I get to do it. But the real kind of like pride for me is creating the content itself.
Yeah, like the content that helps others.
Yes.
Yeah. And in the beginning, you already said it's one of the gifts. And I think you have this gift also because you went through so much breakdowns in your life and all of
Yeah.
that just from you. No one can take out that experience, that pain that you have to go through from
Yeah.
you. So that's why it's so unique and it's the thing that you can offer to the world.
Yeah. Thank you.
Um, and so I'm sure I would love to give the audience a little bit more like a guidance from you. So if they are in some sort of situation like this, like they are just living through day by day, and a lot of moments that they feel like they giving want to give up,
Mm.
what can you if you were in that situation, what can you do and what sort of like guidance that you can give so they can take it some piece of advice and then maybe apply it to themselves?
Okay. Well, I suppose I can share this an example, the story of what I did when I realized I needed to get out of that autopilot
Mm,
mode where the thoughts are repetitive and I can't seem to find a way out. What I did was get a part-time job um, at a coffee shop when I was 18, 19 years old in London. And I worked all throughout my university years, but the first half of the year when I was there, I was so depressed that I was just, I can't even like think of doing that. But when I wanted to start getting better, and I was like, no, I've made the decision, I want to get better. Not that it was every day and not that it was all day every day, but there were moments where I was like, I really do want to feel better and I want to live better and I want to be happier. I decided to apply for a job, and I'm not saying get a job. If you have a job already, that's fine. Find something an equivalent of that, but put yourself in a position where you are committed to something outside of your mind and jolt yourself into this new reality, whether that's, learning a new skill or being around people, or you are being held to some sort of standard. I had to show up to this job no matter what. I couldn't call in and say, hey, my skin sucks, I'm not coming in. They'd be like, fuck off, like you're fired. So there were these certain responsibilities outside of myself that I was like, I want to commit to this and I want to show myself I can do it. And it was like a bare minimum thing, but what it did was take me out of my head and into my physical body. And when I was doing the physical work of making coffees and serving people and being there, I realized it just put everything into perspective for me. And I was like, oh my God, people don't care about my skin. People don't care. I don't even care, because when you start meeting more people and you realize that life is so much more vibrant and varied and diversified beyond your troubles in your head and in your mind, you start to see that actually a lot of the time, as painful as this is, a lot of the things that you think are honestly choices that you make, those repetitive thoughts that you choose. And I hated anybody fucking telling me that, because then that makes you seem like, oh, so you're saying it's all my fault that I'm depressed? You're saying that I'm blah, 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 blah. Absolutely. Like, I was so defensive of that, and I get it. But choosing as well to do something that is out of your norm can be the most healing thing ever. And I don't think people do that enough because they're afraid. And as Luca says, and as Luca is an expert on fear, go and listen to that episode. We won't get into that too much, but just in terms of breaking out of your comfort zone and realizing you're more capable than you let on, a lot of your mental cages will start to open. So I would say do something like that. And it can be literally anything. Just, I think, do something physical and not mental. So don't study, to be honest. Do something physical, like learn a new sport or learn a skill with your hands or something like that. I think the mind physical body power is very, very underrated.
Yeah. Wow. And actually, it also put yourself in such a grounded place as well when you do that kind of thing. You're so grounded because you're not up on here in your head
Yeah.
all the time anymore. Wow. These are very great advice. I I believe in like doing things like that, put yourself in different perspective, and slowly, day by day, it change the way how you look into the thing that you thought it always a problem,
Yes.
um, as well. And I also believe in that sense, you changing from a victim mindset from
Mm,
a growth mindset. So like you just said, instead of just being in your head of your issue, you actually see the world has so much more thing to offer to you,
yeah.
and then again that aha moment, and then you're like, hey, I actually can pick up a little bit and a little bit more. Yeah.
Absolutely. And not to devalue people's experiences as well. Like, I know everyone goes through their own versions of their struggles. But I think there is value in seeing the world has bigger problems than you too. It's like a fine line. But when I was working in the coffee shop and I'd see, for example, there's this guy who was working as a kitchen porter, like he was clean, like he was just washing dishes essentially, and he was one of the sweetest, most genuine guys, and he would lift like the energy in the room. And I remember thinking to myself, like, how dare I complain about my life when this guy's getting paid less than minimum wage and he's exuding this energy of love and gratitude when I have so much more than him. And it made me come back down to earth a little bit and recognize that, I have so much. And even though my life is not what I necessarily wanted it to be at the time, people like him really helped me put things into perspective. And yeah, and I think, to learn how to give I think is a really healing thing too. I think we're so used to just receiving all the time. We want everything to be better. We want this, we want that. But sometimes being able to say, I'm giving away, even if that's just like a moment of my time or my attention or a smile or something, can again take you out of your head and that kind of selfishness that inherently as humans we are. And that, you know, that's not a judgment. Like the selfishness doesn't need to be a negative thing, but I think to not be selfish and to be selfless, it's a very powerful thing to do. Yeah.
I need this quote from you to write out in our introductions for this episode. Okay. We're running out of time. I already see. I'm not going to keep you for too long anymore. So I have the last questions because we're repeating a lot of the word healing here.
Mm.
So I want to have the last questions about healing. So what does the word healing mean to you? Because you know nowadays, I think especially with Gen Z,
Mm.
when mental health, when self-love, everything more educated. For sure, in my generation, no one talk about this. If you feel traumatized, go to school more, go to work more, no rest. But with Gen Z, I see the movement, and I think it's super important nowadays that you take care of your health, you take care of what happened in the past. Because if you don't heal, then you cannot get into a new relationship, you cannot do even better job or even become a better person of yourself. So I just wanted to, yeah, ask you what healing mean to you and how far you are in this journey and what is the most important lesson that you have been learning so far that you can put here for the audience to hear as well.
Mm. I think healing is a choice to I think healing is a choice to look at the wounds, but more importantly, to make sure that they don't affect you in the future.
Mm,
And I think it can be as simple as that. I think sometimes we, especially as you said, like Gen Z and our generation right now, and just society in general, I think we've gotten a little confused about what it actually means to heal because it's become so commercialized and everybody's trying to capitalize on healing. But healing is a very simple choice of saying I no longer want this to dictate my life and dictate my actions. And however way you go about doing that, whether that's, you know, going to a therapist, which I have not done, that's not the traditional thing nowadays. It's like get a therapist or go to yoga or, you know, do ayahuasca or
yeah.
go and buy a bunch of crystals and, you know, meditate with it, whatever it is. Like if that's what works for you and calls to you, great. But honestly, healing can be as simple as crying or listening to music that reminds you of your childhood and allowing your childhood memories to flood your mind and take over and just sit with that. Maybe healing is, you know, going for a walk in the rain and letting go of the idea of what you look like. Maybe you look crazy, you know, and people are like, why is she walking around in the rain? Like just like getting soaked, who knows? Whatever it is, I think we need to stop thinking that it's a textbook guide and to stop being so um rigid with healing. So I suppose as like a word of advice, I suppose would be to just do the things that make you feel liberated. And if liberation comes in the form of, yeah, I don't know, like riding a motorcycle and feeling adrenaline, that could be healing things that sitting in a therapist's office never could. And as for your final question in terms of healing, my journey, like my personal healing journey, I mean, it's I think that's a trick question because you know as much as I do that it's never ever ending and it's a constant thing. But I suppose like right now, being in Asia and having spent a lot of time on my own in the last few weeks, and sitting with my thoughts and looking at my skin and really like basically I've had like a magnifying glass on myself in the last few weeks, reminding myself that my journey is not linear has been the biggest wake up call. Again, like sometimes we need to be woken up to the same lesson over and over and over again until it hits. And I've been hit with the same lesson, which is, you know, my skin does not define me, and my beauty and my worth and who I am as a person is not relative. And not being so judgmental of myself for that as well, for taking perhaps what feels like several steps back, because I know a lot of people, they only ever want to take steps forward, and you got to remember, failing failing forward is just as valuable. And I think, if you can take away anything from your life, if you're failing, that means you're doing something right, because you're only ever going to learn.
Yeah, for me. So beautiful. It's
Thank
so
you.
like I just have to knock my head like this because I it's just so resonate to even we not might be in the same path, but
Mm,
I also think healing is the ability to not numb yourself
mm,
from your emotions, and you acknowledge of your emotions, and then whatever action you take in order to like release um to feel. Yeah,
yeah.
I think it just really important, and you know yourself the most, and you need to choose what work for you. Yeah, and also um the lesson you have to learn again and again. I feel you so much because I feel like one day I have been doing so much work for myself and I thought I'm getting there, and then
Mm.
something happened again and I have to look back like, hey, I still need to work on this thing again because I'm not there yet. But I get that the beautiful of the healing journey, it makes us become a better human being.
Yes,
Yeah.
absolutely. I'm gonna get hit in the head 10,000 times until it resonates with me. Um,
Yeah.
I mean, at the end of the day, we're only human and we're stubborn as hell, and we don't ever want to be like, oh, I have to do that again. But
Yeah. Yeah, thank you so much, Sean. It's such a pleasure to have a chat with you. Oh, where we gonna find you on social media and all of that thing?
well, first, thank you for having me as well. It's been so nice to speak to you. And you can find me on Instagram with @Shanae. Yeah, I know people never know how to actually pronounce that username. It's either
Yeah,
Shanae or Shawnee, whatever
it's
you want to.
I'm gonna put all of the information about Shan on our
Yeah.
description of this podcast, her website, her retreat in Bali next year, her
Yes.
Instagram as well. Come follow her. See this amazing girl sharing her content, her wisdom, her lesson. It just like yeah, can make it a part of your day. And thank you so much, everyone, for tuning in again with us today and listen to us. And don't forget to follow my podcast. Give it a rating so more people can find it as well. And please follow me on my Instagram at amplify your confidence underscore podcast. Once again, thank you and see you next time. Bye bye.
Bye.